Have you ever wondered what it takes to create massive seven-figure success, build up to over millions of subscribers, and absolutely dominate and feel so aligned in your career, your personal life, and in your relationships? Well, in today's video, we're breaking down the anatomy of a 7+ figure YouTuber, CEO, creator, and super high achieving entrepreneur. I want you to meet Brandon Epstein. Now, Brandon Epstein is a mental performance coach that helps high achievers turn their inner resistance into inner power for career best performances. He has over 15 years of working in this space, and his clients range from everyone from millionaire entrepreneurs, CEOs, NFL athletes, professional boxers, to the MLB, and even with creative artists. He was also one of the co-founders of a $1 million brand YouTube channel and business, The Jump Rope Dudes, and helped build that company and subscriber base up literally from zero, which is a channel and business that helps several million people all around the world to look better and to perform better. Not only is he a superstar, entrepreneur, and coach, he is a husband and a father to two beautiful girls, and I'm excited for him to drop some gems for you today. If you are as well, go ahead, type in seven-figure mindset. Brandon, welcome to the show. I am beyond elated and honored really to have you here. I want to dive in. We're going to dive in first to your background, and thank you so much for being here, first of all, today.
I'm grateful to be here. You know, we've had a relationship for a while, and it would be cool for us to dig a little deeper outside of like the coaching context, so I'm excited.
Let's go through a couple things we'll touch on first is like how we work together. But also, I know a couple pivotal points for you were your background. First, when you were like 18 in high school, and then also a moment I want my audience to know about is your starting points in Medellin with your ex-partner Dan, and I love that story. So yeah, we can, I'll let you, navigate where you want to talk about first.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, I know your audience are people who are interested in YouTube, so I guess I will try to take us down that path of like how I started the YouTube channel and how I found success with it. But first I have to kind of come back to the origin story a little bit, which is I was a college football player, and I was just a meathead. And I say that lovingly about myself, where like I really just cared about three things at the time. It was like football, girls, and gains. And if I could do some studying in between there, that was great. But during that time, my freshman year, I went into college to play football, and I rode the bench my freshman year, and I was like, this sucks. I have to go to all the practices. I got to do everything everyone else has to do, but I don't get to play in the games, which is the most fun part. And so in the off season, I went seeking for some answers. I was like, how do I get better? I was already doing the workouts and nutrition, all the standard stuff. And I happened to stumble into a supplement shop owned by this funny looking, red-haired, 240-pound, 5'6" bodybuilder. And I started asking, like, what supplements do you have? Like, I'm trying to get stronger, I play football. And he was like, okay, like, you could take these supplements, but like, what else are you doing? And I started telling him about my workouts and everything I already was doing. And then he was like, well, what are you kind of doing on the mental side for performance? And I was just kind of like, what do you mean? Like, this was 2008, I'd say, 2008, maybe January 2009. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not something that exists in the paradigm of like getting better at my sport. And so he took me through this exercise, and he was like, why don't you try this? Look off into the peripheries of your eyes. So look off to the right and left and just breathe. And I did this exercise. And as I did it, I noticed for the first time in my life, I was truly present and just relaxed and in my body. And that was when I realized for the first time that I had anxiety, because nobody was talking about mental health or anxiety back then. And it wasn't until I did this exercise, I was like, oh shit, like there's a difference between how I felt right here and how I usually feel. And so I was kind of hooked. I was like, this is really interesting because I just feel better, I feel more relaxed. And so I kind of went under the wing of this guy, and he was studying neuroscience at the local university, getting his master's, and he was just a mystic of sorts. He was the only mystic I really met in my life that like does stuff that's not supposed to be possible. And so he started teaching me all these techniques around how I could feel better and perform better. And so he was teaching me these energy generating techniques, things that are like more accepted in the mainstream now, around like how do you like conjure energy through your chakras so you can become more powerful, and how do you shift your brainwaves through meditation to be more focused and relaxed and to visualize. And so long story short, he started taking me down this path. I trained with him for the rest of the year, came back the next season, dominated in football, and simultaneously was like, okay, football, not that good at. Like, yeah, I started, I had some success, but this other thing, this other like mental training thing, like this came easy to me. It was the first time in my life where something actually came kind of easy to me. And then I started using it with all my teammates. And so my teammates were like, hey man, like, will you help work on me with these techniques? Because I could use some of them to take people's pain away. So I was doing these healing techniques with people, using all this magic, and I was getting a lot of like positive reinforcement from it. And I was like, boom, this is my thing. So I stopped playing football after that, and I started committing myself fully to just studying this world of mental performance. And I went on and created a self-design major, the mental aspect of human performance. Went on and created a research study where I led these college students through these visualization techniques I created to help them increase their bench press and reduce their stress and anxiety. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. And so I was putting myself in this position where I was getting affirmation that these techniques didn't just work for myself, they work for other people. And so when I graduated college, 2012, like I literally got my first iPhone like May, and I graduated in June. And then I was going home, and I was driving home with one of my buddies who was a Division I basketball player. And I started explaining all this stuff that I've gotten really into around mental performance. He's like, man, this is so cool. And he wanted to go play overseas. And so he was asking me to like teach him some of this stuff. And so that summer, I started training him to get better at basketball through these mental performance techniques. And simultaneously, he had launched an app company. And so he thought that all the meditations I was doing should be mobile apps. And so together we teamed up, and I used some of the research grant money that I had from doing the research in college. They gave me a nice little stipend that I could use for my study. I didn't use all of it, so I used the rest of that money to pour it into starting an app company. And I was like, all right, cool, I got my path. Because at 22, like a professional sports team, professional athletes were not gonna hire me to do what I wanted to do. And I didn't even have any connections. I didn't even know where to get started. So I was like, this seems like a good place to start. I'll keep working with people one-on-one, but I'll have this app company and hopefully it'll make me some money. And so I made a little bit of money doing that, and it worked for like a year or two where I was like, okay, this is a nice path I'm going down here because I'm creating some money. And it was almost passively, it sounded passively, but I think we all know that passive income doesn't actually exist, right? Like outside of like if you put money in like an investment account or real estate, like passive income, it's not really a thing. And so I thought I was going down the path to create passive income, but really what happened was I ended up in an operations position at my company where all I was doing was fixing keywords and optimizing metadata and doing all these things to try to get more downloads of my app. And I was like, this is not what I wanted to do. I want to teach mental performance and meditation and all these things, and now I'm spending all my time just banging on my computer. And so I let him buy me out of that company, and I was like, okay, this wasn't it. Like I need to find something else to do. And at that time, I had that shiny object syndrome that a lot of early entrepreneurs had. So I had went on and tried to start like 4 other app companies at the same time. Because I was like, well, this one is kind of plateaued, and maybe if I do it 4 more times, it'll work. Typical, rookie entrepreneur mistake to make. And I ended up getting $80,000 in debt, and I was just in massive credit card debt. And so that's what sent me down to Medellin, Colombia. I literally had to sublease my apartment. I had to sell the little, things that I did have, and I moved to Colombia. And I was like, okay, I am in a bunch of debt, and I was like, I need to start by consolidating my debt. And so I consolidated my debt, worked with this company. They're like, okay, you have to pay $1,000 a month. My business partner bought me out of that company for $20,000, paid out over 4 months. So I was like, well, this is gonna last me some time, maybe a couple months, because I already had to start paying down my debt. And so I had a little bit of runway, but I also had a ton of debt to pay down. And I had to figure out how I was gonna make money because I just sold the only thing that was actually paying me consistently. And so when I got down to Colombia, I was continuing to try to pursue a path around working mental performance, doing this coaching stuff. But all along, I had this relationship with one of my buddies that I met before I had moved down. And this buddy of mine and I, when I was living in the US, we were running these workouts where he would teach the physical portion and I would lead like a cool down, yoga, meditation at the end. And we had like really nice synergy. And I just felt like there was some magic there. And so I invited him down to Colombia to meet me down there and to see if we could try to run with whatever magic we had found when we were in the US. And so he came down and we're like, okay, listen, he was really into jump rope fitness. I was really into this mental performance. Let's combine forces. We're gonna start a YouTube channel where we teach jump rope workouts, and at the end, we do some yoga, meditation, so my stuff gets in there too. And so we started that in October 2015, and I can just keep rambling on how we grew that if you want, or if you want to interrupt me, you can feel free, but I could just keep running with this. It's up to you.
One of the cool things about your story is that you discovered and fell into the mental fitness, the personal development, the spirituality at such a young age. I mean, 18, that's so young, right? I mean, literally, for my audience and those of you who don't know, Brandon is like my, very first coach with mental fitness, with mindset, with all this, because my whole life I was like, chakras, okay, maybe they're a thing, like meditation, like some people say it works, some people say it doesn't. Beliefs, like, yeah, okay, people have said, you believe it, you make it happen. But it wasn't until I met Brandon and we started to do work together that I was like, wait a minute, like, and we're going to dive more into like subconscious and just beliefs and reprogramming and that. But how great was it to have this skill at such a young age, be able to, perfect it personally, help other high achievers, help athletes, and having that tool to carry you probably into a very hard time at the time, like in 2015 when you were starting, almost in six-figure debt, like had to get something going that plan A or nothing. I'm sure you had a huge, I don't want to say advantage, but it was definitely advantageous in a way that you weren't anxiety ridden. Like you had the tools to go through it and see what you're building. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, what was really interesting is that the tools that I had learned up until that point, from like 18 to 25 when I started the YouTube channel, they were a lot of the more generalized techniques that you can find out there, which are really helpful to have, mindfulness, meditation, stuff that you might get when you go to therapy or to a psychologist. But the thing about those things, and if anyone's been to therapy before and they can resonate with this, is that it feels like they're almost band-aids for whatever is repressed beneath the surface. And so even though like meditation was a great tool, like I would use it as a way to have mental resilience to keep pushing forward, there's always this like bubbling beneath the surface. It's like, why does this keep coming back up? Why does this keep coming back up? Yeah, I can meditate, I can relax, I can do affirmations and they'll make me feel good for the moment, but why is it recurring? Why does this pattern keep on coming up? So that was really interesting, that I did have this advantage where I knew how to do techniques, almost like a Band-Aid, to help me be able to have the mental resilience to make it through all those like early hard times, but they didn't actually solve the deeper issues around like why I was having the anxiety that would come up again, and like the stress and the lack of belief in myself. And so once I started that YouTube channel, it was definitely a battle, like the first, I think 8 months or so, we really had like almost no traction. I don't even think we had 1,000 subscribers, and we were putting videos, multiple videos every single week. Like we were going all in, we were giving it everything we had. And we just happened to figure something out about YouTube at the time around like SEO that was beneficial to us. And we just happened to like own a niche. And because we own that niche, like we ended up getting some traction. I don't know what would have happened if we didn't, find that niche. Like, you know, very lucky for us, like I figured that out and we did. But yeah, all that to say, I think that the meditation and all those mental techniques are really good for just band-aids, for helping me to like manage the emotions as they're coming up and just keep moving forward. And I think we're gonna get to this, but I could dive into it now. What was really interesting is like what helped me get like a breakthrough in my YouTube business was actually uncovering what was beneath the surface. What was actually causing the reoccurring negative thoughts and feelings that like, yeah, wait a minute, I just dealt with this. I just meditated, I relaxed, right? Like, why does this keep coming back up? And because for some time there, after I'd say 3 or 4 years, we had some traction on YouTube, and I think we had around 100,000, 200,000 YouTube subscribers. We were making 6 figures in the business, but there was like this invisible ceiling that I felt like we couldn't get through, and I felt like it really was stemming from me. It was like I felt like I also had this invisible ceiling, even though I was starting to get a little bit of traction in the business, in my personal life. Like I still had that anxiety coming up, and it still felt like there's something I needed to, you know, figure out, something I needed to figure out, something bigger, something existential. And so that led me to go have an experience with the bufo toad. I think you know about the bufo toad, right?
Yeah, I love hearing this. I watched your video on it several times, but I would love for you to give us some insight on that experience, because I know you even have the tattoo.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have this feeling of like, all right, I've got some success, but isn't there more? Isn't there more? Isn't there more? Like, I need something to complete me. There's like this hole that feels like, doesn't matter how much you achieve, how much you get, you got to keep filling that hole, and it's like this infinitely deep hole that you can never quite fill up. And I feel like I had that feeling, even though I had all these tools to help me deal with it that were, you know, definitely helpful as band-aids. It just kept coming back up. So I just knew that there was an experience I needed to have that was deeper than that. And I had some experience with psychedelics in the past. You know, being down in Colombia, I had done ayahuasca a couple times with jahe. None of those experiences really gave me that deeper wisdom that I was seeking for. And so I was watching Mike Tyson's podcast, and it's funny, on his first episode of the Hot Boxing podcast, he smokes a toad, and he has this experience, and I love it. He goes, "Oh, this white boy killed me, he killed me." And he's like screaming out, "Oh, this white boy killed me," because that's what it feels like, it's an ego death. And I was like, whatever that is, that's what I need now. I wanna go through that complete disillusion of my ego. I wanna let go all the way, because I think it's definitely programmed into my DNA, and probably, you know, most people to some extent, of like just holding on so tight to this life. It's so important, don't die, life is so precious, hold on so tight. And I had that, and I wanted to lose it. I wanted to let go all the way so I could just relax and enjoy my life like to the fullest and actually be able to tap into my full potential. And so I also knew at the time, like, I was suppressing a part of myself that wanted to go back to just doing the mental performance coaching full time. And that's something that I was like pushing down because I was making all this money through my YouTube channel, doing the fitness stuff. And over time, you know, that YouTube channel kind of like got rid of my personal passion altogether, and we've rebranded because of the niche we found around jump rope. So we were just doing jump rope fitness. And that was nice, and I could tell myself the story of like, dude, you're helping so many people, all these people are losing weight, they're going through transformations, and definitely that felt good. You know, we were doing worldwide tours, meeting people everywhere from Africa to London to Europe, like everywhere you can imagine. Like we were going around and meeting our community, and that was great and that was gratifying. But I always had this feeling underneath of like, this isn't your thing, bro. Like this isn't what you're the best at. This is not why you're put on this earth. And so I think that toad experience, I was seeking something like that to just put that in front of my face as a mirror, to be like, what are you gonna do about it? So I smoked a toad, had a complete disillusion of my ego, felt like my ego died, came back into it, and then for the first time had this experience of being able to see what was beneath the surface the whole time. All of this programming, now what I call it, started bubbling up, and I could see what was creating so many limitations, my limiting beliefs around money, around, you know, my worthiness, around relationships, like, and I just believed some terrible things about myself. And I was very fortunate that I was able to circle back with my sensei, the guy who had helped me when I was 18 years old. And he showed me this work he called the inner planet work, where we went deep into uncovering all the programming that made me feel bad or good in any moment. And we went through this process of cleaning up my inner planet. And, you know, thank God I had the YouTube channel, because it was going so well that I could make a video and literally work like 3 hours a week and sustain my income. Like, I didn't need to do anything else. So I went full time for like 6 months into the school of me and reprogrammed myself in every way. And I have like 30, 40 pages of beliefs, which are just pieces of code in the software of our supercomputer minds, that were holding me back. And so I went through this process within 6 months, and our business in the next year quadrupled. And we made $1.6 million 6 months from when I completed that inner programming work. Our YouTube channel took off. We got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I started to break through to where I got my first professional athletes I was working with doing the mental performance work. And I got into professional boxing, and I kind of started to find my niche there. And ever since then, doing that work, that was like 4 or 5 years ago, it's been just a complete unraveling of, you know, present day. I've let go of that YouTube channel. I let my business partner buy me out. Actually, like 7 or 8 months ago, we completed it, the buyout, and I've just been full time, and now I'm literally living my dream. I work with NFL players, MLB players, boxers, UFC fighters, like college football players. Like, it's literally everything I could have dreamed of when I was 18 years old when I first uncovered this. Like, I'm working with the starting quarterback for, you know, a top 10 team in college football, and then on one day and the next day I'm watching him on TV, and I'm like, this is it. And we were talking about before this call, it's like, I just want to keep doing this now because this is what I always wanted to do. And I bring it full circle to say that I just didn't have the awareness of all of this before I did the reprogramming work, because even though we think that we're using this conscious will to force our lives forward and like, yeah, I'm just gonna be more disciplined, I'm gonna try harder. You know, I love David Goggins, but like, if you read his book, he's actually saying like, you just have to force your way to change your beliefs about yourself. And what my book actually does is gives you a playbook for how to change those beliefs. Or, you know, I haven't talked about my book yet, but I know we're gonna get there. But basically my system, what I do with coaching is I actually show people how to do that. Because in our world, especially personal development, internet entrepreneurs, we're always battling this inner resistance, except not many people tell us how do we actually uncover what that resistance is and then move through it and reclaim the energy that's holding us back to move us forward. And so all that reprogramming work that I did around 4 or 5 years ago was a catalyst that has gotten me to where I am today, to get the money that I want, to build a family, to build a career, and so forth.
So there was a ton to unpack there, but one of the built from when you guys were building, you guys were around like 100K. I know before it was called like Zen Dudes, before it became Jump Rope. So between 100K and 1 million subscribers on the channel, when you and Dan were on that journey, you had mentioned there was an underlying thing. Couldn't really pinpoint it, but there was something underlying in the spirit that just didn't feel right. You had also mentioned ego. Like, ego to me is such a confusing word because it's used in so many different ways, especially on social media, just around the internet. But was this a big reason why your book, you know, Programmed to Fail, which we're gonna talk about, is this a big reason why it was born? Because was that that layer beneath that was really like not, you know, what's the word? It wasn't unleashed yet. Was that the programming, like along that way, that was just not solved yet? And how does ego wrap into that, or does it not at all? Because yeah.
It does. So there's so much confusion. So people who don't understand the ego often say the ego is the enemy, right? We're not going to name names, but like that's like a very popular thing to say, like, you know. And so when I talked about my ego death, it wasn't like I wanted to like kill something and never come back from it. It was like I wanted to have the experience of what's it like to not be attached to the ego, so I could actually understand the ego. So when you go through an ego death, and people have these experiences, you know, the bufo toad will do that to you. There's other plant medicines that will give you that experience, and near-death experiences. When you go through the experience, you experience what it's like not to have the ego. which is simply you don't have the front-facing operating system to take external world and filter it down through your programming to create your experience of life. Because when you go through an ego death, you feel like you lose all your senses, right? You're not seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or touching. You're just in energy, experiencing, being at one with all of the energy. And so what happened for me after I had that experience, I went back into my body. I was like, wait a minute, the ego's not bad. There's nothing wrong with the ego. The ego is just basically what's holding my conscious experience in every single moment. And it's not good or bad. It's just like a mechanism for the human experience, because there's an external world and there's, trillions of pieces of data out there that we could be taking in any moment. So the only way that we can bring in that data from the external world and create our reality is through seeing things, hearing things, smelling things, tasting things, touching things. So through our senses, we bring in that external data, and there's so much data that could come in all at once, right? Like right now, I could pay attention to, wait a minute, did I hear like a car that's driving maybe like a few blocks away? Or like, what's that like smell in the room here? Like there's so much data comes in, and you cannot process all that at the same time and make sense of it at the ego level. So what your body does is it filters everything down through the ego, makes internal representations that are being made as it runs through your subconscious programming. So subconscious programming is actually what gives all the data out there meaning as it runs through your senses. So boom, it's out there, it runs down through your sensory experience, it goes down through your subconscious programming, and then it bubbles up into a meaning. And it has a meaning. It's, it makes you feel good, it makes you feel bad, but it's all programmed within us. That's why two people can see the same president and they're seeing the same thing, but they have different programming. So one person feels really angry, the other person feels adoration. Same piece of data that's coming in through the same sensory experience, different programming creates a different meaning around it. And so to bring it full circle, like the ego isn't bad, it's not our enemy. It's just literally like this front-facing mechanism that allows us to take the external world and process it down through our subconscious programming. So all the work that I do with my clients is at the subconscious programming level, because as we reprogram what's down there, we're going to unconsciously create the impulses that make them move towards the goals that they want in their life and not being held back from. Because what I was getting around this like motivation culture and like the motivation porn of just try harder, just do it, is that you don't actually make yourself try hard. There's a subconscious programming that creates this impulse within you that decides for you whether you're gonna take the action or not take the action, right? Like if you ask everyone wants to be healthy and have great relationships and make lots of money and pursue a career that makes them happy, but not everyone's doing that. So why aren't they doing it? Why don't they all have those results already? It's because there are subconscious programs that are holding them back and they don't even know it, right? If you're a parent, like we both are, and you want to make health a bigger priority, but you believe that if you start working out more, you're not going to have the same time for your kids. If you believe that unconsciously, you don't even know about it, then there's going to be this invisible wall where you just come up with excuses with people. You go, oh, it's at the wrong time, or I don't have time, or I just don't like doing that. Or the truth is there's just a program running beneath the surface you're not even aware of that's putting the brakes on you taking the action to live a healthier life, because it goes, hey, we don't want to sacrifice our kids for a healthier life, so that's not going to happen.
I love that. And one of the things, this brings me back to our work we did together. How old was I? I think I was like 31 or something like that. And it was just a total, my sub-level or subconscious level programming was just, I don't want to say at its worst, but it's totally different than it was now. Like I've uncovered so much. But one of the things that I told myself was like, there's no way I could be a mom. I don't have time for it. My business would fail if I became a mom, because my business would my child would take me away, and there's no way it could operate. And I remember you clearly saying to me one day, you were like, my new belief that I have to adopt is like, I believe having a family and having a child is seamless and easy. But underneath, that just triggered all kinds of like, no way, Brandon, like I could never think that. But then when it finally happened, and when we got pregnant and we went through this whole, when we had the child and I had to go away, it was just, I totally get it, but it was like how it came full circle. I'm like, wow, now round 2, now that we want another one, I'm like, what you taught me before, like, yeah, belief is that the second child, it's going to be seamless. The child's going to fit into our life so easy. Profits are going to grow. Like, I'll be able to work less, profits grow, and have a family. And so I think, it's that, please tell us, when you're working with these high-level athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, where do you start with digging up those really hard subconscious beliefs, the big ones that are just, when they start coaching with you, to like, no way, to like, well, wait, maybe. And then now they're on the other side like, oh, hell yeah, this is easy now.
So what's funny is the way you just spoke about our coaching together makes it feel like very seamless. Like I just told you, hey, rationally, you should just change this way you're looking at it. But that's not actually how we did it. The truth was, what happened was we were getting down to your core programming, and we got there through your emotions, and we were feeling into like this resistance around being a mother. And this resistance was anxiety. So we found anxiety in your body as it relates to you being a mom. And so we went into the anxiety, which lives in your physical body, right? It lives in your energy center. Being specific, it lives in your 3rd chakra. If you're following like the Eastern medicine names for these things, but basically this energy lives in your solar plexus, and we went in there, and then I asked you, well, what do you believe to be true that would make you unable to be a mom? You said that, well, I can't be a mom and continue to be successful in my business. So that was your broken piece of code. And so we reprogrammed that into, I believe I can be a mom while running a successful business. And so that sounds very matter of fact. Oh, how do we change that? Well, as you know, through our one-on-one coaching, I move the energy in your body to pull that out of your subconscious and then to replace it. And so that's what we did. So it goes to the unconscious level to now you're like, of course I can be a mom and be successful. And it's very matter of fact, but it's because we went into the body, found the clogged up energy around that, found the belief, which is basically the piece of code that was holding you back, and then we transmuted it. So that's like a perfect example. I love that you shared that we could kind of make this applicable to you, because I'm sure a lot of people have these same beliefs as it relates to like their YouTube channel or their business. Oh, I started YouTube too late, so now I can't be successful, right? It's probably a really common one. People were saying that in 2015 when I started my channel. Now it's 2023, I'm sure people are still saying that. People always use that excuse. I have a golfer that, wants to pick up going back, try to get on the PGA Tour again. He's like, oh, I started too late. Everyone has the same recurring belief, no matter what it is that they are trying to focus on. And so you have to feel into that resistance that comes up in relation to whatever you want to do. If you feel just like anxiety around running a business, you're like, oh, I don't have time for that. Okay, well, now you need to believe that you have more than enough time. Oh, I started too late. I started at the perfect time, right? It's just like, it's the opposite belief that's going to transmute and alchemize the energy in your body. And so that's why I said, like, this stuff goes so much further than most like therapy or psychology or meditation or mindfulness, any of that stuff, because all that stuff is still mostly at the conscious level, whereas we're going beneath the surface into the body, into the energy, right? Down deep into the energy that lives in the body, because that's where the subconscious is. And we're uncovering, where are your negative emotions? Why do you feel that? Okay, let's feel it. Most of the times we feel bad, we want to run away from it, think about something else. No, go into the negative emotion and ask yourself, okay, every time you think about, growing your YouTube channel, if you feel this negative emotion in your body, what do you believing to be true that would make you feel this way? And then write it down, whatever it is. I'm sure everyone has their own story to justify why they can't be successful. And then once you write that down, what's the opposite of that? And then, of course, the book we've talked about has a whole playbook of how to reprogram yourself in this way.
Yes, and kind of going into that in your book, the tools in your book, Program to Fail, as it relates to YouTube business owners, you and I can both relate to this because you just went through a big pivot of kind of in a way taking a leap of faith and, officially saying your farewell to JRD and, completely diving in solo on what really is super aligned. I had a huge pivot moment with my channel, with my business. So how could the tools in Program to Fail help those entrepreneurs navigate through a pivot that is just so, deeply kind of painful, because you've tasted success in one way, but evolution, as human beings, we evolve and we grow in different ways into things that are more aligned. So what are the tools that we can take away with us that would help us in these pivots to going in and marching through a true alignments? Because with YouTube channels, people, sometimes they want to change their niche, right? Sometimes they want to switch from, going from, they're like, I want to make passive income with a SaaS company, to like, you know what? I want to do coaching, but I'm scared because maybe this won't make as much revenue as this. I have to start over, whatever the case may be. I'm going to lose subscribers. I'm going to lose money. So what are those main tools?
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, like I just went through this process. All of like last year was like uncovering all the resistance that would hold me back from making this pivot, because of course you want to bring your best energy into whatever that pivot is, and you don't want to feel like you're like pushing yourself and it's so painful and suffering as you make this pivot. So it's that same process of just closing your eyes, feeling into your body, feeling into the pivot that you want to make, the thing that's really calling to you, right? That intuition. Like for me, just for like such a long period of time, I'd sit in like the sauna and then I just like tune into my intuition, and my intuition was like, the only thing you should be doing is coaching. Just coach, just coach, just coach, just coach, just coach. And I still had this YouTube channel, and I was basically making all this close to passive income, not fully passive, but like, I was making a video every 2 weeks, like taking very little time from me. But I still was like, I should just be coaching, because I knew the power of focus, just doing one thing. I knew how powerful it was. That's how I built 1 million subscribers on YouTube, with focusing on just one thing. So I knew if I brought that full power of just focusing on one thing to my coaching practice, I would get all the pro athletes, I would get these high level people I want to work with, I'd get to the same income level that I got through the YouTube channel. I just had to trust that. And so because I was screaming at me, I knew I had to go in this direction. I started to just feel in and ask myself, okay, I feel anxious about making this pivot. So what am I believing to be true? And I just started writing down all the things I was believing to be true as I felt into that anxiety. So some of the things were like, oh, I believe that like the people who my contracts, employees, people who are working for me aren't going to want to be in my life anymore. They're going to resent me. Oh, this community I built on YouTube is going to hate me for leaving them, right? For abandoning them. And I believe I'm never going to be successful doing something other than this YouTube channel. So I just had all these reasons why I felt the resistance. And a lot of them they could be true, they could not be true, but ultimately we create our own realities through whatever we believe to be true, because we're going to delete, distort, or generalize our reality to make our beliefs true. And so I just rewrote all of them. I was like, hey, I'm going to keep the right relationships in my life when I leave this channel. My community is going to love me even more once I pursue my own passion. I'm going to be even more successful when I leave this channel, like all those things. So I had to go through that to make this pivot, to like get myself to a place of like, okay, I feel peaceful with making this move. And then, I had a business partner, a guy who I had built a channel with, so I had to go through all the resistance around like with him and like my fears around what would happen, because he was my best friend and my business partner. So it's like I was afraid of losing my best friend while I was leaving my channel. And so I had to rewrite all those beliefs I had around what was going to happen between me and my best friend if I left the channel. And everything I wrote, everything I scripted during this pivot became true. Like me and my business partner who I did the YouTube channel with are still great friends. Actually, our relationship is better than it's been in a long time, because now we're just kind of like two separate humans on a path, and we're no longer having to manage our business together. And so the script that I rewrote is a script that I ended up living. And so for anyone who wants to make this pivot, feel into all the emotions that are coming up for you, and then write down just a list of all the things you're believing to be true that would make you feel all those negative emotions. And then one by one, it's just the opposite. Choose the opposite belief and make that your mantra. And you know, there's some cool techniques in the book that I talk about that help you integrate it even deeper into the subconscious level. Things are hard to just kind of describe on a podcast because they take time and they're exercise that you do, but the book is 99 cents right now, so just go get the playbook. They'll tell you what to do. But yeah, that's what I did, and that's what I recommend for everyone else.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for breaking that down, because what I'm hearing from this is like the decisions we navigate with, the physical around us, the human experience that we have, the solutions that we have going forward to keep us have a peace of, or to allow us to have a peace of mind, to help us feel good. It sounds like 80 to 90, more like 90% of it is like all mental, right? And the other 10% is the marketing, the strategy. But would you say you completely agree?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, because like we all know the information's out there, right? Like, you know, I had a fitness channel, so I saw so many people who transformed and lost 100 pounds, so many people who didn't. Well, what's the difference between the people who did and they didn't? They all had the same information within them, right? Like, and it was just a matter of like, were they able to change those beliefs? Because there's actually two ways to change the beliefs. One is just through force and will. That's like the Goggins thing of like, I'm just gonna push so hard that I'm gonna do it through pure force and will. And that does work too. Like up until I was like 27 years old, 28 years old, that's how I had programmed a lot of my beliefs, was just through force and will. You know, I use the meditation, I use those other techniques to have the resilience to keep pushing and forcing long enough to create the results. Now, along the way, I ended up having all these like health difficulties because I was fighting against myself and my body. And so the difference is power versus force. You can force new beliefs, but a lot of people, they're just not able to have that kind of the energy in them to force through it, and they end up giving up, right? Because if, you know, anyone wants to like have a successful YouTube channel or whatever, we all know the secret sauce is like, just keep posting, keep testing things, keep going, just don't give up. And so the same thing, all right, you're 100 pounds overweight, you wanna lose that weight, like just keep going, keep eating in a calorie deficit, keep working out, keep taking care of yourself, keep doing those things, and you can do it through pure force and will. That's how most people do it. And what I'm doing now, and what I do with my one-on-one clients, and I share in the book, is I'm just giving people a new path. I'm showing them how they can tap into their power, and they can actually use these reprogramming techniques to align themselves where the resistance disappears, and they can just flow into the actions they need to take instead of trying to force things. Beautiful,
beautiful. So as we come to the end of this, I'd love to know with this launch of your book, Program to Fail, where can we find it? I'm sure the first link in my description. I know you have some goodies for this launch. And then the second one, I have a wrap-up question after you say that.
Sure. So they can go to theowned.industries/book. And on that page, you can click through, and I'll have it available on, you know, ebook and hardcover and paperback and Audible, all that stuff. I read the Audible; that was a lot of fun. So you got the audio version as well if people rather listen to it. So that's all available. And on that page too, they'll see that you get all these bonuses. Because I was telling you, like, I made an entire course taking you through this for people who can't work with me one-on-one, and I give away the entire course for free if you just leave a review of the book, take a screenshot, and send it to me. So right now the book's 99 cents. If you're hearing this a week or two from now, it's gonna be $10, but you're gonna get this entire course for free if you just leave me a review and you send it to me. In addition, you're gonna get a meditation pack. So meditation is still a really powerful tool. Like, it's not the end all be all, but it can be very helpful, and it's a very practical tool for a lot of different things. You know, when I work with professional athletes, a lot of them, if I'm gonna work with a pitcher or a quarterback, absolutely, or a fighter, we're visualizing, we're going through deep meditation techniques before the games to make sure that their subconscious feels comfortable, like it's been there before. So I have a whole pack of meditations that will help people do this for business, for productivity, for focus, for relaxation, That's available for free. If you get this whole pack, all these things, you're gonna be entered to win a one-on-one coaching session with me. So if you get the book, send me a screenshot of the review. That's all there. And if you're like, yo, I don't want all this stuff, just type in Program to Fail or my name, Brandon Epstein, into Amazon, and you're gonna see the book there.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, guys, don't sleep on this, because his meditations, all of his tools are so powerful. I mean, yes, I've done one-on-one sessions with Brandon, but I have listened to his meditations, and when we haven't been together, it makes a huge difference. So guys, definitely check it out and get your hands on all the goodies with this amazing launch of Program to Fail. My last question for you, Brandon, is for those high-level athletes, YouTubers, CEOs, entrepreneurs that are currently going through an adversity moment as they have done their reframe. They've shifted their beliefs, they're putting it into practice, still going through that adverse, yucky, tension-filled time period. What advice do you have for them to keep going?
Well, if they've done the reprogram with me, the tension will be gone. But if they haven't done it yet and they're just trying to push and be in that period of life where it's just like, hey, maybe they haven't gotten to that level of success where they can hire someone like me to work with them, and they just need to push forward. Like, that was literally me when I was first starting my YouTube channel. I would say just understand the power of your focus. Understand that the answer is not to do more different things. The answer is to continue to follow your intuition and listen to what you know you need to focus on, and just stay that path. Because if you think about it, it's like, and this is what I learned early in my entrepreneurial career, okay, you have X amount of energy, and then you start diverting into 4 or 5 different directions. That means you only have a tiny bit of energy to go each of those directions, versus if all your energy is going in one direction, you're gonna figure things out so much faster. You're gonna get to where you wanna go so much faster, and you're just gonna be so much more powerful. So I think we can't underestimate the power of focus. And then also, to dispel the myth around positive, negative thinking as it relates to focus, let go of trying to think positive or worrying about thinking negative, but instead focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Make it as simple as that. So your focus is so powerful, and the more you're focusing on what you want, the more you're feeding yourself in your subconscious the ability to find solutions to get where you want to go. The more you're focusing on what you don't want, the more you're feeding the direction of actually what you don't want and where you don't want to go. So as my sensei once said, what you focus on is what you get. So keep that in mind. Your focus and your choices are only 2 things in your control. Everything else is outside of your control. So own that focus on what you want exclusively as best that you can, and the choices are going to follow because you make choices in alignment with whatever you're focusing on. So you get your focus down, the choices will come.
Bravo. That is absolutely profound, brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom on our show today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today, Brandon. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it again. Guys, check out Program to Fail. I know it's gonna be in my Audible because I want to start listening to it. I'm gonna get the book as well. I'm super excited to dive in. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and to your audience, thank you guys for listening today. And hopefully there's at least one thing you can take away from this conversation and run with.
Perfect. Thank you.